Hey guys, this is David from Till Death Wedding Film School. Also, Pacific Pine Films is my business name. First off, I want to thank you very much for clicking on this free video. Today, we're going to be talking about all of the gear that you should be investing in. Everything from Sony to Canon to Panasonic to the different lenses that you should be getting. All the way to even the software that you should get when you start out. I think it's a really good idea to get a good scope of the things that you should be getting when you first get started in your business, because sometimes you just don't know. Like when I first started getting started in the video business, I had no idea what camera names were. I didn't know, all the different sizes of lenses. Like when I first got started, I didn't know anything what I was doing. And then it took my mentor to teach me everything and to really kind of help me get my start in what I do today. If you don't know who I am and what I do, I've been a wedding videographer for 8 years now. I'm going into, I believe, my 9th season this year, which is absolutely crazy to me that I've already been doing it for this long. And I wanted to start expanding my expertise out to other people because I feel like I have a lot of knowledge, I have a lot of skill in what I do, and I want to help people get to a place where they can start dreaming about their goals when it comes to wedding videography. And so with this free course, I just want to kind of take a quick pitch to tell you about the full course. So essentially, this is a course for beginners only, just to learn and understand camera gear, which we're going over gear list today, just to kind of talk about what gear that you should be getting. And then we'll be talking about how to use those cameras and how to use stuff like a microphone and things like that to getting your first client or your first job. And what I mean by first job, I mean like your first job maybe working for somebody else, or maybe doing some internship with somebody else. Or if you just want to get started on your own, where you should be finding those first clients. And then we'll also be talking about organizing post-production, how to edit your first video, and in which style you should be editing your video, all the way to the delivery of that product, and then recycling that for the next client. This is a great business to start. Everybody's getting married all the time, and so this is a really good avenue to go if you are wanting to get into videography without having to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on a course. So just to be straight up, this course is only $75. There's a lot of courses out there that's not going to be this low, and it's not going to be this low for very long. So I would say jump on it now if you're really wanting to learn, if you're really wanting to grow in your business. This is a really good step because the price is going to go up significantly pretty quickly. So I would jump in while the price is still significantly low. So with all that said, let's get into it. All right, so here is the gear list. Till Death Wedding Film School, thank you for joining us today. Things to note: it does not matter what you start with as long as you become a pro with what you decide on. So I started with lower budget cameras, and I learned how to make those low budget cameras work really well in my favor. You can start off with a really good one. You can start off with a $3,000 camera. I started off with a camera that was about $1,000. In my opinion, it's about how well you work with the camera that you decide to go with, instead of getting all the fanciest gear that you can possibly get. Because I've seen some really bad work with cameras that are $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. And I've seen some phenomenal work done with cameras that were under $1,000. So become a master at the camera that you decide to work with. Because if you can at least produce really good work with something that is on the lower end, you're going to be able to go really far. And don't let others put you down if you don't have the latest and greatest thing. Because especially when you're first getting started out, you don't need anything too high powered anyway, because for the most part, if you're a second shooter for somebody else, you're most likely getting second shooter stuff. You're getting side angles, you're getting shots of people like hanging out, mingling, and you are essentially a backup assistant angle. And so your angle isn't going to be used as much anyway. So don't worry about having to have the latest and greatest thing. You do not have to be a gearhead to understand how to use any of these things. I personally am not a gearhead. I use these tools as a means for artistic expression. I'm not like a tech nerd, but I know enough to know how to use the cameras, how to, use the camera that's sitting right in front of me right now. This is just what we do. This, we at least learn what we need to know so that we can grow in our business, get better shots and whatnot. Things to note, part 2. To be efficient in wedding videography, you should be investing in 2 cameras minimum. 3 cameras will be ideal. So when I first got started, I started with 2 cameras. They're both within that $1,000 range. And then I had like a really good versatile lens to start with, and then I had a zoom lens to start with. And that probably cost me roughly about $5,000 total. And it was a really good start. It was a really good start to my business. It was a really good start to being able to build up that inventory later on. 2 cameras, I would say absolutely minimum. You should not be going to a wedding with just 1 camera. That's going to be very difficult to film. If you have at least 2, you can have 1 camera that is mostly like a safety camera and the other one doing all of the hard work of making sure they're capturing everything. And if you do something like mess up on a shot, you still have that second camera to do that with. And then with 3 cameras, you can have essentially 2 safeties at that point if you're working solo, where you have 1 camera that you're doing most of the work on. You have like a medium wide shot, which we'll explain what a medium wide shot is later on, and then another shot that's just wide, getting everything. And so it's really good to be investing in multiple cameras probably right off the bat. Sorry, I have to have coffee while I do this. You have to have good audio gear to make it work. Because you can have good footage, but if you have bad audio, your videos will not be good. So as you can see here, like I have a microphone that I'm hooked up to, and this guy, what I'm hooked up to right now, is what I bring to every single wedding. And it's the piece of equipment that I hook up to the DJ's board, and you're getting audio directly from him. And then I also have 2 lapel mics that I have on the officiant, and I have one on the groom. And I'm also probably this year going to be buying a white lapel mic for the bride, and I'm going to have a special way of getting audio from the bride directly now as well. Now you don't need to get the bride microphone. Typically, when you have a microphone that's hooked up to the DJ, normally the officiant is holding a microphone, or he has a lapel that picks up the bride. So like that usually helps, but so at least get 2 good lapel mics and 1 good DR40, which I'll be talking about in the next few slides here. And then also, don't skip on lighting either. Lighting is a very important thing, especially at a reception. You're going to want to have good lighting, because if it's dark and you have a camera that is on a little bit more lower budget, it's not going to be very friendly when it comes to the lighting situation. It's going to be very cloudy looking. It's going to be very fuzzy, and you just don't want that when you are filming a wedding. So you're going to want to invest in some pretty decent lights. And there are some lights that aren't incredibly expensive that work just fine. Like even the lights that I'm using right now to film this aren't extraordinarily expensive. I think it was like $250 total for what I'm using right now, and they work pretty well. So, and I do have it linked in the PDF for which kinds of lights that you should be getting for your wedding. I do want to note too that there are a couple things in the slides that I won't be talking about, I won't be. I'll have them linked in my PDF, but I won't be talking about them in the slides, which is drones and then stabilizers. Stabilizer, you definitely will need a stabilizer. At least get like a pretty decently priced one. I have a couple in there that I have linked for you to use. Drone, when you're first starting off, I don't believe that you need to have a drone when you're first starting off, because more oftentimes than not, if you're working as a second shooter, the lead shooter has that covered. They're usually the ones that are doing they're doing all the legwork when it comes to drones. And then when you're shooting your own weddings, you have to really kind of be careful with drones, because you usually need to have a license to be able to fly it, especially commercially. And so you don't want to be showing up to a wedding with a drone and then getting in trouble for flying that drone, or that drone doesn't fly because it knows it's in a restricted area. So my biggest suggestion is to not go with a drone right away. But I do have a couple of drones linked in the PDF. And then when it comes to Ronins, I use what's called a Ronin M, but there's also a few other Ronins that I will have linked. The Ronin M just works great for me. It's an older Ronin, but it's done the work for me, and I just don't feel like upgrading it right now, which I eventually will upgrade, but I like what I'm using. So with that said, let's start getting into the gears. So the first set of cameras I'm going to be recommending is Sony cameras. So I am a Sony user. What I'm actually using right now, recording this, is a Sony a7 III. It's a great camera. I have no issues with it. It is a really great starter camera. If you have $1,500 that you can spend on a good camera, I would definitely recommend starting off with an a7 III. It's what I have on my Ronin. Whenever I'm shooting on my Ronin, it usually gets all my really pretty cinematic shots. Some of my most favorite shots of all time have been filmed on the a7 III. And so the a7 III is a phenomenal camera. I think, anybody should start off on that. But let's kind of go through the list here. So the Sony a6400 and the Sony a6600 is closest to what I had for my first camera. My first camera was a Sony a6500, and even to this day, I still love that camera. They don't make a6500s anymore, but I love that camera. That camera is amazing. It is a crop sensor lens, so you'll have to, so if you do go those routes, it's what's called, let me double check the right terminology, APS-C, which basically means that the crop sensor is, or there's a crop sensor, excuse me, and there will be specific lenses that you will need for that you won't be able to use on something like an a7 III, which is a full frame camera. So there's a lot of people that will knock crop sensors, and like, you should only go with full frame. What I love about a crop sensor is that they are typically, really good starter cameras when you're first starting out, when you're only getting weddings that are like either free or $500. Those are really good cameras to go with. And then, once we kind of get past the Sony a7 IIIs up to the FX30, FX30 is a really good camera if you're just wanting to get a budget-friendly cinema line camera, meaning it is also crop sensor, but it is like cinema grade. So if you're just wanting to like start off right off the bat with like a really good camera that's decently priced, Sony FX30 is a great camera to start with. And then we kind of get into these other cameras that are Sony A7 IV, which is kind of the upgrade to the A7 III. Sony A7S III, excuse me. I would say is probably what most higher end wedding videographers are working with today. They're just a great camera. They do a lot of really good stuff, and it's probably the best bang for your buck is probably going with an A7S III. Like you're gonna get a lot of use in that camera for a long time. So if you're kind of more on the lines of like, well, I don't want to have to continually invest in camera gear all the time. My suggestion, if you're just like wanting to get two solid good cameras that are decently priced, on the higher end side of things, I would definitely recommend like an A7 IV or an A7S III. If you're wanting to get fancy, Sony FX3 is basically the full frame version of the FX30. So the FX3 is basically what they consider the like baseline cinema line camera, which is a great camera, and you can do a lot of really good stuff with it. It gets beautiful stuff. It's the camera that I plan on investing into next. And I've gotten to play around with both the FX3 and the FX30, and both cameras are just amazing. They get some really high quality stuff. And so if you are on the bougier end of things, Sony FX3 would be a go-to for that. If you're just wanting just to kind of like go guns blazing, FX3 is the way to go. And pairing it up with the FX30, those two cameras obviously work really well together. That's what I would suggest if you are wanting to go more on the higher end cameras. So for these next cameras, I actually don't have a lot of knowledge in Canon cameras. These are the suggestions that that I've been looking at because they are still really good cameras. You're probably going to hear me say good cameras a lot. I just don't have a ton of knowledge in them. So when it comes to like the Sony cameras, for example, I have a ton of knowledge, and I'll be teaching mostly on Sony cameras in this course. So definitely with this gear list, if you're wanting to really get a lot of good stuff out of this course, I would definitely go the Sony route, because that's what I'll be teaching on. That's what I use for all of my work. And so my biggest suggestion is to go with Sony cameras. But because this is a gear list, I want to make sure that I am covering all the bases. And so Canon is a great avenue to go. Probably that Canon EOS 6D Mark II is probably the avenue to go. That's what I know a lot of people use when it comes to weddings. That's probably going to be your best bet when it comes to Canon. Like I said, I don't know 100% because I'm not a Canon user, but definitely when it comes to me suggesting which cameras that you should go with, the Canon EOS 6D Mark II is probably going to be your best bet. Obviously, other cameras, in this list are going to be great too, like the R6. The C70 is kind of like the Canon version of the FX3. It's kind of like their, entry-level cinema line camera too. I've seen some amazing work done with the C70s. If you know who Eric Floberg is, he's on YouTube. He's also, he used to be a wedding videographer. He has kind of, he's gone into different things now, but he works heavily on C70, and the work that he gets from that camera is just immaculate. He gets some really good stuff. his work has almost made me want to switch over to Canon because I love the kind of stuff that he gets off that C70. But like I said, I am not a Canon person, so viewer discretion is advised. I would say if you want to get a lot of stuff out of this course, Sony cameras are going to be the way to go. And I'm going to kind of touch on Panasonic. I know absolutely nothing about Panasonic other than I know that the GH5 Mark II is an excellent camera. The Lumix S1 is also a really good avenue to go. I've a church I used to go to used the S1 and it got pretty good stuff. I didn't love the colors that it was getting. It was kind of getting a little bit more of a purple tone in the footage. So I was always having to kind of like get those purple tones out a little bit, but I didn't hate it. Again, it's kind of one of those situations where I don't know fully a lot about Panasonic to be able to really kind of give any good suggestions, but I would definitely, look into the GH5 and the SH1. Well, the SH1 is like their higher end, but like the S1, I would say would be a good avenue to go. Obviously you can go with any of those. The GH4 I've also done a lot of work on with my old church, and that was a great camera too. It was our like safety shot, the wide angle shot of like the whole church service, and so that's what we use that camera for. And then the GH5, I think GH5, not the Mark II, but the GH5 is the one that we used a lot for the more creative angles and things like that. And then the Mark II is just kind of like a step above, the regular GH5. All right, and then now we're going to go into lenses. So I'm not giving any suggestions for Panasonic lenses. This is going to be mostly for Sony again, and because, like I said, Sony is what I use. And so I want to make sure that I'm setting you the right direction if you're going to be going with this course, or if you are already in this course. So really, right out of the gate, I don't think you need to invest in a lot of lenses right out of the gate. I think if you go with, say, you're going with an A7 III, I think going with a Sony FE 24 to 70 millimeter 2.8 is a really good avenue to go. You can't go wrong with getting stuff like that because like you're able to get both wide and you're able to get close-up shots. And if you have that paired with an A7 III, you're gonna be able to do a lot of really good stuff with that. So like that's really my suggestion when it comes to getting lenses. At least get two good solid lenses. I talked about the getting Metabones for the Sigma 50 to 100, and that lens is only for the, like what I was talking about earlier, the APS-C cameras. If you try to use the Sigma 50 to 100 millimeter on a full frame camera, you're going to get what's called a vignette, which is it's kind of going to be like a black circle around, and you're not going to get good stuff out of that. So really make sure when you are looking at lenses, making sure that they actually work with the camera that you're getting. So you can get that Canon 70 to 200 lens for a Sony if you get the right Metabones for the Sony. So you get the Sony Metabones, and then you're able to use that Canon lens. And that 70 to 200 is a phenomenal lens. You get some beautiful stuff out of that. And the Sigma to 50 to 100, if you're going the more A64 route, it is also for the price too. It's a great lens. It makes your camera look like it's just a high grade professional lens. And to this day, I still use that lens, and I absolutely love it. It's my all-time favorite lens. But when I got it, I think it was around $1,200, so it's gone down quite a bit in price. So that's what I would suggest when it comes to that. All right, now we're going into Audio gear. Audio gear is very important when you're getting started in video, because if you have really bad audio, like I said earlier, you're not going to have a good video. You can have some really beautiful shots, you can have some really good stuff, but like if it's like really muddy audio, you're not going to have good stuff. You're not going to have a good video. It's just going to be really jank. It's going to be really kind of gross. You're going to want to get some good audio gear. The first thing that we're talking about is the Tascam DR40. That's what this bad boy is right here. That's what I'm using right now to record this. It's a really easy thing to work through. You need to just be able to get the correct things. I don't think I have it here, but I have it in the gear list. The types of things that you'll need to hook up to the DJ. A lot of times they want you to hook up to their mains, but I also use a 1/4 inch to hook up to their wireless receivers too. And that's where you're going to get the best audio, is when you hook up directly to their wireless receiver. Otherwise, you can just hook up to their mains. Just really be on top of them about like turning off music instead of turning down the music. Because one time I was shooting toasts, and the DJ only had the option to hook up to their mains, but instead of turning off the music that he was playing, he turned it down. And so during the entire toasts, music was blaring into my DR40. So that's something to note if you're going to go that route. But if you're able to hook up into a wireless receiver, that is the best way to go. And you get the 1/4 inch cable, and that's usually the best way to go. As I continue building this course, I will give more suggestions on the better use of audio. But this is at least to get you started and ready to go. All right, and then the next thing is a Tascam DR40, or no, excuse me, Tascam DR10L. Get 2 of these. I think the price that I have in this slide is a price for 2. These are what you're going to be using for your lapel mic for the groom and for the officiant. These DR10Ls are very they're very plug and play. They're very easy to use. There's not a lot of stuff that you have to do to them to make them work really well. You just they have good settings. You just got to make sure that you put things in the settings that you want to put them in, and then they're usually pretty good to go. You usually don't have to do a ton with these DR10Ls. They're phenomenal lapel mics. I also have a suggestion, but this is not a requirement, is a white Tascam DR10L. That's what you would be hooking up to the bride. But there's some other things that you need to make sure that you're getting if you're going to go that route. Like, you need to make sure that you're getting like a way that you can hook up the Tascam to her leg, run the wire up to the dress, and then there's usually stickies that you can get to put on the inside of the dress so that it's hiding the microphone, because brides don't want the microphone to be seen on their dress during the ceremony. That's a little bit more of a complex thing. We can get into that at some point. I currently don't do that right now. I know people that do that, and they get really good results from that. Usually the route that I go is usually the officiant is holding a mic, and or if the DJ has a lapel on them, I usually just try and make sure that they are somewhat close to the bride, so they are getting their audio. And then sometimes and then a lot of times too, the groom's audio is also picking them up as well. So that's something that you just have to make note of. And I've been looking up at my monitor this entire time instead of my camera. So if it looks like I'm looking up, that's why. And then a good microphone, what I'm using right here. This is just in case there is no DJ. This is a good microphone. It's only $99. I use it for a lot of things. I eventually want to get different microphones, like one of those nice podcasting microphones for future classes. But right now, this is what I use, and it does the job. I enjoy it. It's really easy to use. So that's what I use. I think that's all we need for audio gear. And, and as we're going through this, as we're going through this, I'm kind of realizing some other things that I'm going to probably need to add on to the gear list. Eventually at some point, like all this will be evolving. All this will be getting added on. So, keep this video forever, and I will continue to be adding on things. I'll be continuing to renew this video. I'll be continuing to add things to the PDF that will be on the video. So, if you're in need of good like monitors and things like that, those are things that I'll be adding on as well. I don't talk about monitors here because I'm just trying to get you started. I'm just trying to get gear into your hands right now. And all that can be bought and purchased over time. So that's something I want to add on as well. Light gear. This is where I came across this Canon TV Q55W Boltzmann 55 watt Mark II. These are really good entry level like lights for when you are on the dance floor. I use a certain kind of light. I forget what company it's called, but they don't make my lights anymore. My lights work really well, but they don't really have dimmers. My lights tend to make a lot of people at weddings mad, and I want to set you up for success rather than failure. So from what I've seen, the research that I did on these lights is that they are dimmable, and I think that they are multicolor too. So I think you can go warmer if you want, or you can go cooler if you want. And then like getting that Manfrotto master stand for that would be a benefit as well, because you usually want to have heavier duty light stands, because I can't tell you how many times my lights have been knocked over because people are either drunk or they're just not paying attention of where they're going. And sometimes my lights have gotten knocked down. Also, investing in good sandbags would also be a good benefit to you as well when it comes to putting your lights up. Excuse me. The next one is more of a fun add-on. You don't need to have it, but it's a Aperture Amaran ALMC RGB WW. I think, yeah. It's a tiny little light that you can put onto your camera. So if you aren't in a place where you're able to get good like reception lights, this would be really good, especially for like party dancing. If like the DJs like really want you to turn off your lights, this is a good avenue to go if you are wanting to like just get into the dance floor and get some really good stuff. And it's also really good for the exit at the end of a wedding as well. I personally have not used this yet, but I have seen people who use it and they get some really beautiful stuff from it. And it is something that I plan on getting in the future, because sometimes you need a little bit, you just need lighting in a different way. And so having lighting on your camera, and then you can, then the dance floor can be turned off so that people can just focus on dancing and having fun partying. That's a good light for that. These lights are also something that you don't necessarily need to get right now, but they're really nice. These are the lights that I'm using to light this right now, which is a NEEWER 2-pack bicolor 660 LED. These lights I bring to weddings in case there's a situation where the bride and groom's background is just blown out. So, for example, you know how my background right now is relatively dark because I purposely am making it dark so that I'm being lit up. There's gonna be situations where like the bride and groom are in front of an open barn door, and there's just light flooding into the entire room, which makes the backlighting just awful. And so I will often bring this one or both of these lights so I can get light directly on the bride and groom, so then it's kind of eliminating that really awful backlighting. And so like I'm able to get them in focus, get the exposure on them correctly, so then the background isn't just so like white, if you know what I mean. If you purchase the course, I can show you what that means. So so there's that. They're great lights. And then if you're doing something like this, where you're like wanting to do more Zoom calls, or if you're wanting to do more, like talking head videos, like I'm doing right here, these are great lights. You don't need to have the big old fancy lights to do this kind of stuff with. You can just invest in decent lights. And again, they're only $205 for both of the lights. And so, they're budget friendly and they're really nice lights. Tripods and monopods. This is where I also needed to add on stabilizers as well, but it's in the PDF. And I'll probably be talking about them in a later video once I update this. But like I said, I don't think it's an absolute requirement to have stabilizers, but if you want to invest into a good stabilizer, it'll be listed for you. The only one I have of these three is the Manfrotto Video Monopod, but the Manfrotto 190X is the closest that I have. I forget what mine is exactly named, but they don't make mine anymore, which I feel like is a disservice, because the tripod that I use is an awesome tripod, and I haven't had to reinvest into more tripods. Like it's been a great tripod. So the first one I recommend is the 190X. It's the closest thing to what I have. It's got like what's called a nice fluid head. And what a fluid head does is basically, if you're like on uneven ground and you're not able to get the legs exactly the way you want, you have that fluid head that you can unscrew, and you can move the camera on top in the way that you need. In the the tripod can be exactly the way it needs to be if it's on weird, awkward ground. I would definitely suggest investing into good tripods, because then you're not going to have to continue buying tripods. Because I know you're probably looking at that price like, man, that's a really steep price, $429. Trust me, I've had the same tripod for 8 years, and it was $450. Within the last 8 years, it's paid for itself. So my biggest suggestion when it comes to tripods and monopods is that you invest into the best, because you will not have to replace them anytime soon. They will last you for years, investing into really good ones. And that's why I recommend Manfrotto. Manfrotto in my opinion, is top of the line. They are going to get you exactly what you need. They're going to get you the results that you need. And then the Be Free in the middle, that would be a tripod that would be more or less for your safety camera or your backup camera. But the 190X would be the one that you use for most of the day. And the monopod, if you these days, a lot of people like to have the shaky handheld look these days. It's kind of a direction I've gone more in, but it's also good to have a monopod just in case you need it, in case you are needing like more steady shots. I use it a lot for like makeup shots. I use it for like groom prep shots. I use the monopod probably the first half of the day, and then the second half of the day I don't touch it at all. These days I've gone a lot more handheld, so the monopod is usually a lot less in my hands. But it is a great tool to have regardless. And if you are the type that doesn't like the handheld look at all, get a monopod, because you won't have that. You will have good, steady shots the entire day, if that's the style that you like better than like the handheld look. Computers. This is probably going to be your most expensive investment. Right now, I got to double check which Mac I have right now. I have the M2 Max, which is that more, but I have some add-ons. I think I'm shaking my camera right now doing this. So mine was roughly in that $3,000 range. But this is probably gonna be your biggest investment. I definitely would say don't skimp on the computers. But if you're needing a really good computer, that's a little bit more budget friendly, that 2023 MacBook Air M2 is probably going to be your best bet, especially when you're first starting out. But if you're just like, I just need a really good computer right out of the gate, the MacBook Pro M3 at $3,000 is going to be a great option for you. You're not going to have to replace that computer at all. And then the M2, like I use an M2 and I've had no complaints about the computer. I worked, and so full disclosure, I worked on a 2015 MacBook Pro refurbished for 7 years. This computer is the first time I've upgraded my computer. Macs run for a long time. So if you're looking at the price and like, man, that price is just steep, just know that it's going to pay for itself over the next few years. In once you purchase the MacBook, you're not going to have to replace it for a long time. I almost, like, my old MacBook is, 2 years shy of it being 10 years old, and it's still a great computer. It just got to a point where I just had to finally upgrade. And I did, and I don't regret upgrading one single bit. It kind of hurt to see a huge chunk. Like, basically, for me, like, that's the price of one full wedding is a MacBook computer. So take that in consideration, is that, computers aren't cheap. I would suggest any Microsoft computers, but I don't really know anything about Microsoft when it comes to editing. So if you're wanting to go that route, one, I will be teaching off of Final Cut Pro. So keep that in mind. And two, I haven't ever used a Microsoft or Adobe Premiere for my editing needs. So there's that. So those are your suggestions there. I definitely would go more the route of the MacBook Pro M2 because it's a great start. All right, let's go with software. So for editing, I am not a hater on any sort of editing software that you need. Use what you're most comfortable with. Don't let people hate on you for whatever one that you end up using. I get a lot of hate for using Final Cut because, people who love Adobe Premiere love Adobe Premiere. And then I feel like Final Cut is more for the people who they just want to get the editing done. They want to be able to just focus on the project itself. You can do a lot of amazing things with Final Cut. Adobe Premiere is a little bit more on that pro end of things because you can use After Effects and things like that. I don't use After Effects for any wedding, but Final Cut is what I use, and that's what I'm going to be teaching through. And it's a great program. You only have to pay for it once. I think it's only like $300, and you just get it, and then you just rock it, and you just do, and then you just bust out the weddings, and it's great. Now I'm going to go on to the next thing, which is Honeybook. Honeybook is a phenomenal client management software. It's where you get your inquiries. It's where you can communicate with the bride and groom. You can send them your pricing guides. You can set up invoices, contracts, and even take payments through Honeybook. And Honeybook now actually included their own like business banking. So if you are needing good business banking, Honeybook is a really good way to go, at least to get started. And like there's a lot less like transactional fees because they're not having to send you money to a different bank. They just started that, and I've been actually considering moving my banking to Honeybook. Once I pay off some stuff with the bank I use now, I've been thinking about like just putting everything into Honeybook. Then like I have everything in one place when it comes to all my business stuff. So that's a really good avenue. I highly suggest, if there's anything that I suggest out of this entire thing, is that you get Honeybook right away. And start learning how to use that. I will even dedicate an entire class to Honeybook because I believe in Honeybook that much. I think they're a great group. That's why I gave you my referral code, is because like I believe in them that much, and they've been amazing to me. I have no complaints about Honeybook. Musicbed, that's what I use for music licensing. I pay $109 a month, which is kind of annoying, and like it went up for me. And I think honestly it might be up now. Musicbed is a bit more on that higher end when it comes to music licensing. I think some of the best music comes from there. But if you are wanting to go a little bit more budget friendly, I would suggest a site called Soundstripe. Soundstripe is a great site, and also Artlist.io. Artlist.io, I think, only does yearly subscriptions. So if you're not wanting to like fork out $300 right out of the gate, I wouldn't suggest Artlist. But Artlist also has some really good music as well. Canva. I use Canva for a lot of things because I'm not a graphic designer, and nor do I care to be a graphic designer. That's where I've created my logos. It's where I've created my pricing guide. It's where you can do a lot of things through. And so Canva is really good. And I think it's only like $8 a month for like a basic subscription to them. I use it for a lot of things. And even for like a lot of this stuff that I'm using in this course, a lot of the design work that I did on Canva. So Canva is a really good place to go. The next thing, this is my online bank, and like I said, you do not have to go with it. I just made it. I just on purpose wanted to just kind of let you guys know, like when you are getting into business, you should be wanting to move all your business money into its own account right away, and don't be mixing up with your personal finances because when it comes to tax season and stuff like that, you need to be able to have all that separated. So I would say you could do this, or most local banks that you go through, you can open up a business account with your local bank. So my personal bank is a credit union, for example, and I can actually go and open up a business account with them. I just went this route because it was an easy setup. They accepted me right away, and that's who I use right now for my online banking, or for my banking in general. And they've been good to me. So I don't have much to explain with that. But the next one, I think this is a really good avenue to go, especially at the beginning. They are spendy, so keep that in mind. But it's a company called bench.co. They are a bookkeeping website, and they will definitely help you with like at the end of the year tax filing and things like that. And then they have their suggestions when you do taxes, and then they'll help you get your business in the right direction when it comes to whether you should be an LLC or whether you should be an S corp, and they can help you with a lot of that kind of stuff. We can dive more deeper into that kind of stuff once we get to a place where we're teaching a little bit more about the business side of things. But Bench has really helped me in the last couple of years. Like I said, it's not cheap. It's not a cheap service by any means. If you're needing to go with something like QuickBooks as a way to get started, that's a really good way to get started. But for me, I'm not a numbers guy, and I'm not an accountant by any stretch of the imagination. So Bench pretty much eliminates all that for me when it comes to accounting and things, because I'm not an accountant. I don't have a brain like an accountant, so I need somebody else to do it. And like I said, just like Novo Online Bank, there's people in your local area that can also help you with accounting too. And I'm sure you probably know someone personally that can also help you with accounting. So if you have that route as well, I suggest going with that route too. And the last thing we're going to be talking about is your website. So I use a website called Squarespace. For a long time, I hated Squarespace, but they've gotten to a point where they've upgraded a lot of their stuff. So it's a lot more user-friendly now than it was when I first started with Squarespace. Again, it's a good website. It's where I've built, like, a lot of the reasons why I haven't left is because that's where I built a lot of my SEO. It's where it's where I've done a lot of stuff too, and it's hard to leave that when I have put so much into it. So Squarespace is a great website if you want to get started. Showit is also a really good one. Showit is very user-friendly. It's very easy to get started with Showit, and also Wix. But from what I remember, Wix isn't quite as user-friendly. And there's also stuff like WordPress. I hate WordPress because I am not a website builder. I just want something that I can just kind of like drag and drop because I want to focus on my work more than I want to focus on my website. So Squarespace was really good for me because it was very user-friendly. Showit is also the same exact way if you're just not wanting to spend a lot of time on your website. Showit and Squarespace are going to be your best bet. And Showit is designed for people like videographers and photographers and other creatives that don't want to spend their time building a website. So Showit's really good, and Squarespace. So there you have it for all the gear. Obviously, if you have any questions about anything, you can obviously reach out to me. If you are somebody that you saw a lot of this, you gain a lot of knowledge from it, you got an understanding of somewhat of how cameras work, and you are wanting to dive deeper into this course, like I said, it is only $75 right now. So if you were to sign up and get started, we can really get you started and really get you excited about being a wedding videographer. Right now we are starting. So as of right now, we are starting on January 4th at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We're going to be doing a weekly Zoom meeting. That's how the class is going to get started. And once it's recorded and into the course, that is for you to keep forever. So even if you are someone that paid $75 for this course, no matter how high the price gets, this is for you forever. So if you are somebody that really wants to have some really good education at a very low price, now is the time to do that. So with all that said, I have the link to the course below, and we are going to be getting started officially on January 4th. And I look forward to seeing you in the course.